is Thursday, January 21st, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. Well, it's been a very busy day. There's a lot going on. We see a lot of executive orders coming from Joe Biden. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about 15 executive orders on our Wednesday show. Actually, it looks like about 17 on. It came out on Wednesday, and then some more came out today. We're going to talk about that. The one I was trying to find on yesterday's show, I was on whitehouse.gov live on the air, and I was trying to find the executive order dealing with advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities. Okay. We talked about the yesterday. There was an article from I think it was NBC News that we talked about, and I couldn't find that executive order, so I was able to find it on whitehouse.gov, and all the executive orders are there actually, so you can check those out. Yesterday we talked about the article from the Washington Post from January 20th, 2021. Biden signed several directives on first day, including mask mandate on federal property and rejoining Paris Climate Accord. And then also, let's see, there was one from NBC News. Biden takes immediate steps to undo key Trump initiatives, unveils immigration plan. So we're going to talk a little bit about the one dealing with racial equity, since that was the one I was trying to find yesterday. Really couldn't find that. So news1.com also has a good article that deals with some of these executive orders. Reversing course, Joe Biden signs executive actions dissolving Trump's racist policies. Okay, we talked a little bit about, some about that yesterday, especially dealing with the 1776 project, but we'll talk about it some more today. And then a lot of people talking about this story dealing with some QAnon followers. So I posted this article here from Forbes on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. I posted it when we got off, when I got off the show yesterday. And this deals with how some QAnon followers are smelling what the rock is cooking. Reality is slapping them in the face. There's also one from Politico.com that I posted, and also there's one from NBC News. A number of different publications are starting to report on this. The one from Forbes.com says, quote, "We all got played," end quote. We all got played. QAnon followers implode after big moment never comes. QAnon followers implode after big moment never comes. And what's happening is they're starting to realize that they got played by Trump. Joe Biden is president. Donald Trump is not president. Donald Trump is not going to be their savior. And some of them are being hit with federal charges because they were trespassing, they were destroying property. They participated in the insurrection that took place January 6th, 2021. And some of them starting to realize, we made a mistake. We were following the con man, and some of them realized we got played. Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. And there's going to be a lot of them going to prison. Oh, the other thing that happened, right? So when Trump did his 143 pardons and commutations, and we talked about that for the past couple of days, even when it was about 1 a.m. The morning of 1 a.m. Wednesday morning, and when the news came out, we were still on the air, so we were in overtime, on our social media platform. So I talked about it then. Stephen K. Bannon and Kwame Kilpatrick, and we broke down Kwame Kilpatrick's commutation on our show yesterday, because Kwame got a commutation, not a pardon. There's a difference. Okay, Kwame still has with a commutation, the conviction is still on your record. Okay, the felony is still on your record, and Kwame still has to pay the $4.7 million in restitution as stipulated by the commutation if you actually go read it. All right. So we shared the article, the segment from WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit, WXYZ.com. So all these shows, all of our shows re-air on our social media platforms throughout the day. That's why you want to follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. So we re-air shows all throughout the day on our social media platforms. Okay, so a lot of them are starting to smell what the rock is cooking and realize, wait a second, Donald Trump didn't give us a pardon, and he's not going to be our savior, and Joe Biden is president. Uh-oh. All right, so we'll, we'll talk about that. And a lot of people were laughing at, I shared some articles. There's one from Politico. Trump leads QAnon and the online MAGA world crushed and confused. Okay, oh, they're starting to wake up and realize, hold on, he's been lying to us. What 30,000 lies later, now you realize he's lying to you. All right. So we'll talk about that. And let me see, there was also one from NBC News as well dealing with this. Okay, and then and I'm about to send this information also, Shakita. Shakita's our board operator usually during the week. So when you call in, Shakita, you talk to Shakita. Shakita's going to become a star from being the board operator on this show, because we have people listening all around the world to the African History Network show. So when they call in, it's usually Shakita that answers the phone. So Shakita's going to become a star, okay? When I go to the studio, she's going to have security around her. When they finally let us back in the studio, she's going to have Secret Service around her. But we've been talking about usually at least 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a week. I tell you to read the U.S. Constitution, right? Okay. And on yesterday's show, we talked about the U.S. Constitution. The day before that, we talked about the U.S. Constitution, right? Well, there was a segment on she's laughing. She's laughing. There was a segment on CBS News, the morning show, that talked about how ignorant Americans are of the U.S. Constitution. This is what I've been saying. This is what I've been explaining to people. This is why you hear me in my broadcasts and my lectures on this show. I tell you, read the U.S. Constitution. That's the foundational law in this country. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution clearly tells you that the U.S. Constitution, all of the previous treaties and all of the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. And we don't understand this. So we're gonna talk about that, because that's extremely important, because all that deals with law, it deals with history. And then when people talk about reparations, and I asked them, well, reparations is a legislative process based upon Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Congress controls the purse strings. It's not an executive order. So explain to me the process to give reparations. 99.9% of the time, they can't do it. Well, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then when we deal with making legal arguments for reparations, that once again ties back to the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which laid the foundation for the international transatlantic slave trade to be abolished January 1st, 1808, which then laid the foundation for the U.S. Supreme Court case of 1841 of the Amistad slave ship, which is one of the reasons why those Africans, Joseph Sin Q, give us free. We remember the movie from about 1997, Amistad. We remember those Africans were set free, but don't know why they were set free. And where did they go to get their freedom? U.S. Supreme Court. That's a landmark Supreme Court case from 1841. You can go research it at archives.gov, which is the official website of National Archives. How do I know? Because I went and researched the case there. They have the original court documents from that 1841 U.S. Supreme Court case there. Okay, so we're going to deal with that. And then we have another segment of the interview that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did November 2nd, 1967 on the Mike Douglas show, and he was talking about his opposition to the Vietnam War. All right. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. We deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events, history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. We're up against a break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. We're on commercial break. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Also, I got to get ready for this next segment, and I have to email this information to the radio station. This next clip, I overslept. I'm tired as hell. I got to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was up editing video. I was editing the video from last night's show, and I overslept. So just stand by.
Problem is all that excess oil and fat can cause you to become
All
overweight.
right, so what we're going to do, we're going to do
an amazing kitchen miracle that uses air to fry instead of oil, so you can have the same delicious flavor and crispiness.
Let's jump in. We're going to jump in with the Constitution.
Get that deep fried taste and crispiness with up to 70%.
How's everybody doing? All right. Just give me a minute here.
Cheesy and delicious mozzarella sticks. Call now and bring the Cooklight Aero Fryer into your home, including the Cooklight Aero Fryer recipe book, the unique patented dual tray, air frying mesh basket and tongs, and stainless steel extender ring. You'll get it all for 5 easy payments.
We'll be back in just a minute.
Be one of the first 500 callers and get this 13-piece knife set, a $175 value, yours free. Try Cooklight Aero Fryer for 30 days. If you don't love it, send it back. But keep the 13-piece knife set as our gift to you. We're in the next 10 minutes and we'll include free shipping. Call now.
Okay, we'll be back from break in 2 minutes.
That's air2fry.com.
My name is Greg Davis, and I am back on 910 AM, the Superstation.
Okay, stand by. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see who we have here. Let's close out some of this stuff here. All right, stand by, everybody. Have you all seen the documentary MLK FBI? Have you seen that? I have to watch that. I'm so behind on watching documentaries and stuff. How's everybody doing? Okay, Knowledge is Power, D.L. Gordon, Ronnie. How you doing, Ronnie? And the Federalist Papers. Federalist Papers were about a group of about 80 essays written by like John. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, January 21st, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Somebody posted about the Federalist Papers. That was a group of about 80 essays written by John Jay and James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, about 85 articles and essays. And these were sent out to newspapers, and they were explaining different portions of the Constitution. This is before the Constitution was ratified in 1788. Okay. So this is October 1787 through May 1788. You're going to have all these different papers published, different essays and things like this published in newspapers. Okay. So I want to jump into this. I just sent you the I just sent you the clip here. The Shakita, most Americans don't know what's in the Constitution. A crisis of civic education. A crisis of civic education. So the past few days, when we're talking about Dr. King, talking about yesterday's show, dealing with executive orders, things like this, and we also talked about how the history of the Civil War has been rewritten in this whole lost cause initiative, and people's misunderstanding of history then influences their politics, and understanding that politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement, and understanding how all of this is connected: laws, policies, history, conditions. We talked about the Teaching Hard History American Slavery, Teaching Hard History American Slavery study from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which documents how the history of slavery is being mistaught in schools all across the country. And they did a survey of 1,000 high school seniors, found they were very ignorant when it comes to history. And that probably means that parents are ignorant also. But it's not just history that Americans are ignorant of, it's also the U.S. Constitution. On yesterday's show, we talked about the study that showed AL.com, Alabama.com, has an article from September 19th, 2019. 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of the U.S. government. 1 in 5 Americans cannot name a single branch of the U.S. government. I've said over 100 times, maybe this year over 100 times, America needs a massive history lesson. All right. I see comments on social media. I hear what people say. I do lectures all across the country before COVID-19. And Americans are very ignorant when it comes to history. And it deals with the education. And then we also know civics has been taken out of school. So if we look at, for instance, this study here, 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of the U.S. government. And a recent survey found America may need to go back to civics class. A recent survey found America may need to go back to civics class. Annenberg Public Policy Center's Civics Knowledge Survey found only 2 in 5 American adults, or 39%, could correctly name the 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. Now, growing up in the 70s, see, we had Schoolhouse Rock Saturday morning. I'm a bill on Capitol Hill. I'm just a bill. I'm only a bill. Sitting here on Capitol Hill. So at least we knew a little something. We understood the House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, and then the bill has to be signed into law by the president. Okay. But 2/3 of Americans, we're talking about adults. We're not talking about 2/3 of 5-year-olds. We're talking about 2/3 of American adults could not name the 3 branches of government. That figure was the highest in 5 years when this study was taken in 2019, up from 32% the previous year, 39% apparently in 2019, 32% in 2018. People are getting dumber. 1 in 5 adults could not name any branch of the study. Okay. Now we know Senator Tommy Tuberville, new senator from Alabama, dumbass Tommy Tuberville. Okay. He couldn't name the 3 branches of government. He also is ignorant of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and Alabama was ground zero for the fight for the Voting Rights Act. Okay, where we talk about Lowndes County, the Lowndes County Freedom Organization in 1965 with Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, where we talk about Bloody Sunday, March 7, 1966. Okay, in Alabama as well, crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge. He doesn't understand the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and he's from Alabama. All right. Now I know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, early in her tenure in her first term in the House of Representatives, couldn't name the 3 branches of government, but she was like 29. That's bad, but she was like 29. Before that, she was a bartender. Okay, but there's no excuse for Tommy Tuberville. He's in his 60s. He should know better. So I want to go to this clip here from CBS News. This deals with how most Americans don't know what's in the Constitution, a crisis of civic education. Let's go to this clip, Shakita.
About the Constitution, that 233-year-old rule book for American life and governance that is especially relevant right at this moment. Consider this. The inauguration process details the 20th Amendment, the impeachment process that is described in Article 1, Sections 2 and 3, and the 2020 election results were certified by the states and counted by Congress, all of it in accordance with Article 2 and the 12th Amendment. Here's the problem. For all of its wisdom, the Constitution is in trouble for this reason. Most Americans do not know what's in it.
We, the people, have been talking a lot about our founding document, this document. Republicans and Democrats say they're protecting it.
We love the Constitution. We love America.
And President Trump referenced the Constitution no fewer than 16 times ahead of the riot at the Capitol this month, urging supporters to fight a supposedly unconstitutional election.
You're sworn to uphold our Constitution.
We are living in unprecedented times.
Jeffrey Rosen is a CBS News constitutional law expert, the person we turn to for knowledge of our nation's charter. The Constitution is a 7,500-word blueprint for America, establishing our national government, basic rights, and a process for addressing our problems, at least in theory.
The Constitution provides as many questions and answers, and it provides a forum or a platform for civil dialogue and debate so we can peacefully resolve those questions.
Rosen is also president of the National Constitution Center, where web traffic is at an all-time high, which isn't exactly a good thing.
What does it say about us as a country that at this moment in time, so many of us had to go to the National Constitution Center to refresh our memory of the document that undergirds our country?
There's no doubt that we are in a crisis of civic education. The framers knew that the consequences of constitutional ignorance and being guided by passion rather than reason were en masse. Well, we just saw that they were right about that.
Every immigrant to this country has to pass a civics test to become a naturalized citizen. So we borrowed some basic questions from that very exam.
We got some trivia questions. Can we ask you a few?
To get a sense of just how deep a crisis we're in.
How many people are in the House of Representatives?
I don't know.
12? 14?
The House?
No,
For
not
the whole country?
80.
We assumed Americans by birth might do at least as well as Americans by choice.
But can you name the 3 branches of government?
Judicial?
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, my husband's going to kill me.
However, the vast majority of people were stumped.
Who is the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court?
Do we have 9 of them?
We have 9 of them, and there's a chief.
I don't know. The Chief Justice?
Yeah.
Trump.
The Chief Justice is not Trump.
Sometimes their fellow Americans tried to help.
Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. John
Roberts.
Yes, there it is. He got it. Well done.
But it was clear most people could use a refresher.
Who signs a bill into law? It's not officially a law until this person signs it.
Is, what do you call his name again? Oh, boy.
Oh, you know this. And many of us haven't read the Constitution in years, if ever.
Ooh, been a minute.
Been a minute. Yeah.
Oh, God, probably middle school?
Never.
Never read it.
I'm sure hardly anybody read it.
And sure enough, a 2019 survey found only 4 out of every 10 Americans could pass the citizenship test.
That feels like an embarrassment to me.
You could call it a scandal. I call it actually a proxy for a larger set of problems.
Raj Vinakota runs the nonprofit that conducted that survey. The Institute for Citizens and Scholars aims to reimagine and rebuild the field of civic learning in order to reconnect America to its constitutional roots.
So you need to understand how our government works and elections and so on. But you also need to understand why we set it up that way. And if you don't understand both of those pieces, you are going to be in trouble, and we can't actually function effectively in our society.
What worries me the most about constitutional ignorance is the same worry that the framers had, that without constitutional education, the republic will collapse.
And he's not kidding about that. I mean, we were supposed to know this thing. The good news is it is a very slim volume. It is not a big book.
Yeah.
This is how thin the Constitution is.
You can also get a little tiny one that you can carry around in your
put
purse.
it in your pocket.
Yep.
And but there's a serious point behind this, which is, we did a poll just yesterday that found that a majority of Republicans don't think Joe Biden was legitimately elected and is a legitimate president. Well, the Constitution says otherwise. A process was followed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you disagree with that process, there's a constitutional process. We're changing it 4 years from now.
Yeah.
We can't function as a democracy unless we follow the rules in this little book.
I was shocked that President Trump mentioned the Constitution 16 times in that speech, I have to say.
Shouldn't you give the people the correct answers? I know people are watching at home because we were all playing.
You're going to put me on the spot. So that I should.
No, I'm not. I just figure you must have some kind of sheet where the answers are.
Well, so
I know legislative, executive, judicial.
Every question that if people want to test themselves, and I took the test myself, every question is on the civics exam that citizens to the U.S., naturalized citizens take. There's 100 questions.
I would have liked to see you address those same questions to recent immigrants.
They would all get it.
No, she did find one, but she's taken the test 30 years ago and forgotten everything. Yeah. The only person who got all of the questions that we asked was a CBS This Morning viewer who declined to be named, but we appreciate you, sir, very much.
Yeah.
And there was another young woman, Amber Abdul, also very impressive, got all but one. The only one she missed is who is her representative in Congress. That was an easy one. It was a gimme.
No, I'm amazed at how many people can't answer that question.
I know.
I love the John Roberts question to the guy who answered it. Is he didn't even break his stride. He kept in and said John Roberts.
That man knows what's going on.
Yeah, he does.
I thought that was
all right. Read the Constitution this weekend, people.
A little homework for you all.
Try to tell you. All right. Brenda Lawrence, 14th Congressional District. That's my representative in the U.S. House of Representatives in Congress. Okay. So there is a constitutional crisis. Even with Trump out of office, there's still a constitutional crisis because we don't understand the Constitution, which means there's a whole lot of stuff we don't understand. Now, if these QAnon jackasses who are running up, storming the U.S. Capitol January 6th, if they understood the Constitution, they would understand that Trump was lying to them because based upon the U.S. Constitution, especially the 12th Amendment to the Constitution, Mike Pence, Vice President at the time, Mike Pence, did not have the authority to throw out electoral college votes once they had votes certified by the electoral college, which took place December 14th, because as stipulated by the U.S. Constitution, the electoral college votes on the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. That fell on December 14th. If Mike Pence had the authority to throw out electoral college votes, if they actually read, and I think half of them can't read, but if they actually read, then if he had the authority to throw out those votes, then Joe Biden had authority in January of 2017 to throw out electoral college votes from Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania that Donald Trump won when Hillary Clinton got 3 million more popular votes than Donald Trump did. If Joe Biden had that power to do that in 2017, then in 2001, when sitting Vice President Al Gore had to preside over the joint session of Congress, House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, certifying the votes from the Electoral College, he would have thrown out the Electoral College votes from Florida that George W. Bush won through the George W. Bush one, because and he would have won. He would have become president. Okay, but no. So this is extremely important. That's the foundation of law in this country. That in the Constitution ties into politics. When we talk about the U.S. Supreme Court, federal judges, everything. In the judicial branch of government, the federal courts, federal appeals court, U.S. Supreme Courts, interprets law from the legislative branch of government, U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate. So, listen to a lot of these Trump supporters. Then they said there was video that came out in the past few days showing them on the storming the Capitol saying Trump sent us here. Trump invited us here. That's not Trump's house. He doesn't have the authority to invite you to the U.S. Capitol. You remember back in 2019. No, 2020, early 2020, when Trump was going to do his State of the Union address. And it was during the impeachment hearing in the House and then going to the impeachment hearing in the Senate. And he wanted to do his State of the Union address, which takes place in the House of Representatives. He had to wait until Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives, who controls the House, gave him permission to speak in the House of Representatives, because he doesn't control it. He doesn't control the House of Representatives and U.S. Senate, those buildings, those institutions. So he can't invite nobody there. He can invite them to the White House, which he did. He can invite them to the White House. He can't invite them there. So if we look at this and call the numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute. Hold the line, Walter. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute. If we look at this article here from Forbes.com, we all got played. Okay. QAnon followers implode after big movement never comes. QAnon followers implode after big movement never comes. And then there's one also from, there's been a number of different articles dealing with this. There's one from NBCnews.com also dealing with this topic. The one from NBC News is some QAnon followers lose hope after inauguration. They realize, Joe Biden's actually president. Donald Trump disappeared, did not give you a pardon, and he did not give you a pardon. And a lot of y'all going to be prosecuted. Okay. and so would Trump, but that's a whole nother story. So as Joe Biden was sworn in as president, QAnon followers finally saw their hope for the quote unquote storm when President Donald Trump would bring down the deep state, leaving followers of the unhinged conspiracy theory in despair and searching for answers, while one of the most prominent adherents gave up. And so we posted the article and he had the little boy there with the fur on and the horns, all this stuff. Let me help y'all out. Some of the QAnon supporters. Let me help y'all out here. This is what y'all need to do. Okay, get a pen and pad. Write this down. 1, take a bath. 2, use soap. 3, use deodorant under both arms. 4, brush your teeth with toothpaste. 5, use some mouthwash. 6, take off all that fur and horns and all that stuff. 7, go get yourself a woman and shut the hell up. Or a man, and just a woman, get yourself a man. Be quiet. All right. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Let's go to the take a bath though first. Okay. Make sure you use soap. Use some deodorant under both arms. Don't try to rotate one arm one day, one arm the other day. Okay. Trying to conserve deodorant. Use deodorant under both arms. Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Walter, line 1. Walter, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. Thanks for holding. Do we have Walter? We're on the air. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
This is Kwame.
This is who?
Kwame.
Kwame. Oh, okay. It said Walter here. Maybe Walter hung up. Okay, but we have Kwame. Okay, go ahead, Kwame. Go ahead, man. Tell us where you're calling from, Kwame. This is not Kwame Kilpatrick, is it? This is not Kwame Kilpatrick, is it?
That's why government and third world nations are so unstable. They don't know their constitution, and probably a lot of them don't even have one. But it got pretty unstable here, and it got very violent if what you believed in was white supremacy, which is what people have been believing in for more than 100 years. So I mean, we need the education. Definitely, we need to be re-educated.
Oh, absolutely. We need the education in the Constitution and in history. America needs a massive history lesson, and America needs a massive constitutional law lesson also.
Yeah.
This is why. So like a couple of nights ago, I don't know, and I'll let you finish in just a second. This is why, like, I think on our Sunday night show, because we're on 6 nights a week, I think on our Sunday night show, I talked about how there are 1,700 Confederate monuments that still exist in the country, in the U.S. Okay, and these are monuments. These are monuments erected to the traitors who committed treason against the Union based upon Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. So very quickly here, and I'll let you go ahead and finish. Fastcompany.com. I want people to check this out. Fastcompany.com has an article from June 11th, 2020, and it shows a map. This map reveals 1,747 monuments and other Confederate symbols of America's racial past all across the country. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, I'm just saying, well, that's empirical evidence. You know, they shouldn't be up. There shouldn't be examples for nobody. Definitely shouldn't be examples for nobody.
Right. Well,
but, I mean, it goes on. The roots run very deep.
Right. Okay. All right, Kwame. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
No, and you know, you can take this through the 60s and 70s in Africa. People, I mean, the government, you know, came up and went down weekly. You know.
Well, you had the African independence movement starting in the mid to late 50s, starting with Ghana when its independence from the British in 1957. And then this is going to continue into the 60s. And you have the African independence movement taking place at the same time that the civil rights movement is taking place here in this country.
Okay. But they still were extremely unstable.
Well, they were unstable, but because they were fighting against the European colonizers. They were fighting against European colonizers trying to gain their independence.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right.
Definitely agree with that. But what about the Igbo and the whole state of Nigeria? You know?
Yeah, they were fighting against. They were gaining their independence from the British also. Yeah. Okay. All right, Kwame. I gotta get these other calls, man.
Were fighting against the national.
Huh?
Okay.
They were fighting against the who? They were fighting against
the Igbo was fighting against the national government.
Okay.
They were fighting over oil in their, on their side.
Right. Okay. All right, Kwame. Thanks for calling. Keep listening. Call back tomorrow night. All right. Let's go to. Let's see. We have. We have John.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm calling from east side of Detroit.
Okay. Go ahead, man.
You were talking about the Africans, and I was looking at the history. They got art that go back late first century, and you know who got it? French took it from Africa. They have all kinds of art there in the French museum.
Okay,
and a lot of it come from Africa.
Right.
So I just want to thank you for educating people about Africa. Colin Powell, who threw with the Republicans. He said he don't want nothing to do with him. He said he's still with him and so forth.
Right.
And they was some kind of a cult. They don't let that joker that led them into a kind of cult. They said those people got to be the children got to be retrained. So they let that cult thing go, and them people a lot of them were just plain sick and so forth. And he said that they would definitely need to be retrained. He said the children did because the children have been brainwashed by the parents. And
who said this? Who said this?
Colin Powell.
Okay, the children have been brainwashed by the parents. Yeah. Well, a lot of the Trump followers, not all of them, but a lot of the Trump followers, especially the ones that stormed the U.S. Capitol building, they sound like a cult. They sound like a cult, and they're living in an alternate universe. Now, some of them are waking up now, smelling what the rocket's cooking. Some of them are waking up now, especially if they got hit with federal charges. But yeah, okay, all right, man. I gotta get this.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Call back tomorrow night. Okay, let's go to Straw Tay.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
All right. Who's this? What's your name?
Shante.
Oh, okay. Shante. Okay, go ahead. Tell us where you're calling from.
You a while back about the Black History 365.
Yeah. I remember you, man. I remember. I got your email. So, but tell us what's going on with it right now, quickly.
So right now, I don't know if you were familiar with K.O. Cates. He done did music for Jay-Z, all the big rappers, but he just finished the album. So it's like a hip hop album. Okay. And that comes out on the February 6th. That's gonna be dropping. Okay. So just wanted to figure in on that. I did have one question though.
Go ahead.
So because it seems funny with the pardon and stuff. There has to be a charge before the president can pardon something, right?
It could be a preemptive pardon. Those are rare. It could be a preemptive pardon before charges happen. Okay, those are rare. And the thing is okay. So there was an article from CNN where they talked about how Trump was talked out of pardoning his children and his allies like Rudy Giuliani, things like that. Notice they did not get pardons, and his counsel, like White House counsel Pat Cipollone, they were saying, okay, if you give these pardons to these people, it's like implying that they're guilty, because why would you give somebody a pardon if they didn't do anything? Why would you give them a pardon if they're totally innocent? They haven't been charged with anything yet. Okay, so
exactly. So that's my same thinking. That's why I asked.
Yeah. And then the other thing is when you accept a pardon, it's tacitly acknowledging guilt. It's tacitly acknowledging that you did something. But there was there was one from CNN that really talked about this and how Trump was talked out of giving a pardon for his children. Trump talked out of pardoning kids and Republican lawmakers. January 19th, 2021 from CNN. People should check that article out. Okay. Get people email me again, man, because we need to talk. And then what's the website? What's the website for Black 365?
Black History 365 Education.
Okay.
And so they all on all the social media outlets and all that. And next month, we need to talk, man, because even next month they got a whole month of stuff they doing. We're trying to get with schools and do like listening parties for the record. For the
listening party. Okay. Okay. All right, man.
Yeah. So, but I'll shoot you.
Email me. Okay, I'll respond to it. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
We have any more callers, Shakita? Who we have next? Just go ahead and put them on. Who we have next? Okay, we don't have anybody. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, that was everybody. So let's go back to this article here dealing with QAnon supporters. Okay, so there was one from Forbes.com. We all got played. Now, QAnon adherents appear to have fractured into two groups on popular far-right message boards on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. And I wonder what was going to happen when they saw all the news media outlets showing the inauguration and then showing Joe Biden doing executive orders. Okay, and Trump's not at the White House anymore. I wonder what they were going to say. You know, are they going to be okay? I'm worried about them. Are they all right? You know, do we need to check on them? We need to go by check on our neighbors. Okay. Now, with some realizing that crackpot conspiracy theory was a fraud, while others tried to somehow keep the flame of the crazy candle alive. Now, Ron Watkins, the founder of 8chan, which is white supremacist message board, who is one of several people suspected of being the anonymous poster Q, who spawned the conspiracy theory. Now, this Q, now people like 65, 70, 80, 90. This is not Quincy Jones. Not that Q, okay? This is somebody else, okay? Suspected to be an anonymous poster Q, who spawned the conspiracy theory, conceded shortly after Biden was sworn in, telling his supporters it was time for believers to keep their quote unquote chins up and go back to our lives. All right. They say the jig is up. Okay. they gone with the bid as long as they could. When the FBI shows up at your door with a warrant, put handcuffs on you, like, oh, what happened? What are you talking about? What do you mean? No, Trump invited us there. Then you had the people. I was cracking up. You had the people trying to get on planes, and they're on the terrorist list. They're on the no-fly list. He said, wait a second. He invited us there. What do you mean I can't fly? I'm not a terrorist. Up until the final minute of Trump's presidency, some QAnon adherents were cheering for Trump to do something spectacular, with one instructing fellow followers Wednesday morning to, quote, pray, because the next 5 hours would determine the fate of the world. They got that part right. Oh my God. That optimism unraveled for some as the day wore on, especially after Trump gave no hints of a plan to take over the U.S. in his final speech after Joint Base Andrews, with one user lamenting on Telegram that, quote, it simply doesn't make sense that we all got played. End quote. It does make sense because he's a con man. He's a con man. He's a fraud. I was like, oh my God. Oh man. You sit back and wonder how people can be so gullible. All right. Read the rest of this article here. Those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. We're going to keep broadcasting. We're out of time here on 910 AM, the Superstation WFDF. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. You can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right now, let's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Greg Davis. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Okay, stand by. All right, had to disconnect that call. How's everybody doing? African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Let's see here. We have a few more spots left, and we have a special promotion: buy 1 month, get 1 month free. Our shows re-air throughout the day on our social media platforms. So in a 30-day period of time, you're going to get 200 commercials. Okay. All right. Let me see here. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. And we're going to get back to this in just a second. Then I want to get to this other story. We're going to look at a couple of these executive orders quickly. We talked about the executive orders a lot last night. Go watch yesterday's show. Okay, I'm not going to rehash everything, but there was some information I was trying to find at whitehouse.gov while we were on the air last night that I could not find. All right, visit workingwithjohnray.com, workingwithjohnray.com. Now, John Ray teaches about a concept called income shifting. Income shifting helps you keep more of what you make in any business or job where taxes are taken out. Now, who would not want to keep more money? If you don't want to keep more money, you can send your money to the African History Network if you don't want to keep more money. If you want to learn how to keep more money, visit workingwithjohnray.com. Number 2, income shifting builds you an emergency fund. It also enables you to pay off debts using money from taxes, and debts to begin to buy assets, using money from taxes and money that you save from debts to begin to buy assets, making money while you sleep. Okay. Visit workingwithjohnray.com for more information, workingwithjohnray.com. All right, let's see here. Okay, and then we're also going to do the third excerpt of the interview with Dr. King from November 2nd 1967 with Mike Douglas. All right, so QAnon supporters trying to find their way. There was let's see here. Let's go back to this quickly here. And check out this article. This is from, the first one here is from Forbes.com. They have a hilarious picture here. I just love this one. Okay, we all got played. QAnon followers implode after big moment never comes. All right, that's from January 6th. All right, I told you they need to take a bath, right? Use deodorant under both arms. Okay, I'm trying to tell you right now. I'm trying to help you. Okay. All right, so let's see here. All right, so QAnon message boards lit up during Trump's farewell speech after some believers noticed there were 17 flags around the stage. That number 17 is code for QAnon follower. Okay, nonsense. So they're waking up to smell what the rocket's cooking. That's what's happening. Okay, so we have that article, and then there's one from NBC News. Also, some QAnon followers lose hope after inauguration. Keep hope alive. They didn't listen to Jesse Jackson. Keep hope alive. Okay, I don't think this is supposed to happen. One QAnon follower posted as Joe Biden was sworn in. This sitting there, because when the inauguration was taking place, I was wondering. I said, "Now, what's going to happen to these people?" I said, "What's going to happen to these people?" Because I know they sitting there trying to figure all this stuff out and rationalize this. And every channel they turn on, they see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and no Donald Trump, no Melania, no little thieving ass kids. So I know they're sitting there trying to figure this thing out, right? So let's look at this here. Some QAnon followers lose hope. Quote, "I don't think this is supposed to happen," end quote. One QAnon follower posted as Joe Biden was sworn in. All right. So some QAnon conspiracy theorists in public and private internet forums and chat rooms were despondent Wednesday as their prophecy of an inauguration day coup to keep Donald Trump in power failed again as President Joe Biden was sworn into office. You missed it by that much. The situation left some QAnon adherents with no choice but to write off the conspiracy theory entirely, but others continued to maintain that it was still developing. Okay. QAnon supporters believed Wednesday's inauguration was an elaborate trap set by the former president, wherein Democrats would be rounded up and just bullshit. Okay. They say y'all got this much time to come up with conspiracy theory. But in contrast with the events of those days, Biden's inauguration leaves the community with little daylight. As their predictions failed to come true, radicalized QAnon members expressed their sense of betrayal on messaging apps like Telegram and forums named after their failed doomsday scenario, the Great Awakening. While Biden took the oath, a top post on a QAnon forum read, quote, "I don't think this is supposed to happen," and wondered how long does it take the Fed to run up the stairs and arrest him. That didn't happen. Yeah. Other users became immediately dejected, realizing their dreams of a coup were not going to be realized. Oh man, y'all need to go back to church or something. Y'all need to do something. I'm just saying. All right, so read this on NBCnews.com. Sit down when you read it, because you're gonna fall out laughing. I'm just telling you right now. I don't want anybody to hurt themselves. Sit down when you read this, because you're gonna fall out laughing. All right. That's from NBC News. January 20th, 2021. Okay. All right. Now, I want to go to, so we talked about the executive orders. There were 17 executive orders the first day that Joe Biden signed. We talked about this on Wednesday's show. So go back and watch Wednesday's show. And I was able to get some more information because I was trying to find the, let's see, we talked about, there was an article from NBC News and Washington Post that we talked about on Wednesday's show. And there was, there's a good one from New York Times that deals with, let's go to that one here. Let me close out some of these tabs. There's a good one from the New York Times. Biden's 17 executive orders and other directives in detail. Biden's 17 executive orders and other directives in detail. Okay, so we have that. Then there was one from, we talked about the 1776 project being dismantled. There was an article from CNN that deals with that. That was part of the executive order, and that deals with racial justice, racial equity, however they phrased it. Just a second, we'll show you this one here. So on our show, I think it was Monday night, we talked about the 1776 project. Yeah, either Monday or Tuesday, because the Trump released the 1776 report on Dr. King Day, which was January 18th. Biden rescinds 1776 commission via executive order. Okay, so check that out. Then if we look at this one here, this is what I was trying to find. This is at whitehouse.gov, which is the official website of the White House. So all the press conferences, they have usually the video there, transcript at whitehouse.gov, executive orders, all different things like that. Executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. This was signed January 20th, 2021. Okay, because I was on yesterday's show, while we were live on the air, I was on whitehouse.gov trying to find it, couldn't find it. All right, so Section 1 of the policy, equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy, and our diversity is one of our country's greatest strengths. But okay, I want to get straight to the point. Therefore, the policy of my administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality, affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of our government, because advancing equity requires a systematic approach to embedding fairness in decision-making processes. Executive departments and agencies must recognize and work to redress inequities in their policies and programs that serve as barriers to equal opportunity. By advancing equity across the federal government, we can create opportunities for the improvement of communities that have been historically underserved, which benefits everyone. For example, an analysis shows that closing racial gaps in wages, housing credit, racial gaps in wages, housing credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in gross domestic product in the American economy over the next 5 years. That sounds like they got that from the study from Citibank that we've talked about, and I have the broadcast re-airing on the African History Network that I've done, and it deals with how the U.S. has lost $16 trillion in the U.S. economy has lost $16 trillion over the last 20 years due to racism. From 2017, the year 2000 to the year 2020. Okay. The study originally came out in September of 2020. And CBS News had an article dealing with this. We're going to pull up the original one. And this really breaks it down and shows how racism, even though African Americans bear the brunt of racism, how racism negatively impacts everyone. We'll go back to the executive order in just a second. But all this is tied together. This then ties into history and law. Okay, all this is tied together. This then ties into history and law. So just bear with me here. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion, Citigroup fines. This article is from CBSNews.com from September 23rd, 2020. Okay. America could have been $16 trillion richer if not for inequities in education, housing, wages, and business investments between African American and white Americans over the past 20 years, new research concludes. The study released this week by Citigroup is the largest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. The study attempts to quantify, and is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. Okay. It's one thing just to say systemic racism. It's one thing just to say racism. It's another thing to actually show how it impacts African Americans, how it impacts people in general. African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they could not get a college degree. African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over just the past 20 years because they could not get a college degree. The housing market lost $218 billion in sales because African American applicants could not get home loans. About $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because African American entrepreneurs could not access bank loans. Okay, so this is real. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to bank loans, access to home loans, etc., and it uses to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. So this study shows over the past 20 years the net effect of that, of laws and policies, the net effect of racism. Racism has nothing to do with not liking people, calling people racial epithets, calling people the N-word, things like that. That's bigotry. This has nothing to do with the power structure. Okay. So what's more, the U.S. could have $5 trillion in gross domestic product over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, the study indicated. That's in Biden's executive order, this right here. As soon as I read it, I knew where it came from. So let's go back to the executive order. That very few people don't want to talk. A lot of people ain't even talking about because a lot of these people don't read. Okay, let's go back to this here. Executive order. Okay, let's go back. Now, for example, an analysis shows that closing racial gaps in wages, housing credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in gross domestic product in the American economy over the next 5 years. The federal government's goal in advancing equity is to provide everyone with the opportunity to reach their full potential. Okay, and the American government should do that. Everyone, regardless of race or anything, everybody should be able to reach their full potential. Consistent with that. Now, the issue is some of us have more obstacles in the way of us reaching our full potential. Some of us have historical impediments in the way of us reaching our full potential. Consistent with these aims, each agency must assess whether and to what extent its programs and policies perpetuate systemic barriers to opportunities and benefits for people of color and other underserved groups. Such assessments will better equip agencies to develop policies and programs that deliver resources and benefits equitably to all. So this is within 200 days, they're going to have their whole assessment and the report complete within 200 days to examine the different government agencies and how policies within those government agencies have discriminated against African Americans, discriminated against other ethnic groups, etc., to correct that. Okay, this is dealing with systemic racism. Okay, all right, so read the rest of this here. They talk about systemic racism. They talk about African Americans, Latino, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, LGBTQ, all of this, dealing with underserved populations, everything. Okay, so you can read the full executive order. I don't have time to get through everything, but I wanted to show this to people because a lot of people don't know this was there or they heard a little something about it. And I was trying to find this on yesterday's show, the actual executive order, and I didn't have time to find it at whitehouse.gov. Okay, but check this out. All right, we'll post a link here so you can read this. All these executive orders you can read at whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.gov is the official website of the White House. Also at whitehouse.gov is progress of the African American community under the Obama administration. And those that watch me regularly, you know I've talked about that numerous times, and very few people talk about it, probably don't even know it exists. When I speak out of town, I ask people about it. They never heard of it before. And this deals with, let me see, should still be up. Unless they had, let me see, did they have it? I have it somewhere else. But see something here. Okay, I think it's archived. So is what we do. You look at it this way. It's at Let's pull it up. Let's do it like this. I've got it, I think, here. You can go read it. So this shows how President Obama's policies positively impacted the African American community and is broken down by category. Let me see here. Trying to find the document. I'll give you the link here. Is it here? Or is it's in one of these documents? Okay. I'll have to find it. Hold on. I have it in Firefox, so I'll find it and post a link here. I thought I had it one of these other documents, but anyway, we'll move on. All right, let's go back. Let's go to, I want to go to this other article here from, we'll look at the one from news1.com. Let's see. Actually, what we'll do is there was an interview with the woman who conducted the study dealing with racism, $16 trillion. November 3rd, 2020. The economist who says racism cost the U.S. $16 trillion explains the math. The economist who says racism cost the U.S. $16 trillion explains the math. And let's see here. Why is it coming up with that kind of stuff here? Her name is Dana Peterson. At the time, she's chief economist for the Conference Board and formerly global economist for Citigroup. Okay, I'm gonna go to this clip here in just a second so you can hear how she came up with these figures. Just a second here. This is her and all her black girl magic. Dana Peterson is chief economist for the Conference Board and formerly global economist for Citigroup Bank. Check out this article. Economist who says racism costs the U.S. $16 trillion explains the math. November 23rd, 2020, from CBSnews.com. All right. Okay. I think this, where's the end? I think this is the interview here. Just a second, let me cue this up. Okay, it's once we get past this commercial. All right, so we got that, and then we'll get to this clip here from Dr. King. While that queues up, there's an article from news1.com, reversing course, Joe Biden signs executive actions dissolving Trump's racist policies. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I didn't see this article from news1.com. President Joe Biden's executive actions include targeting underserved populations stressed under the weight of two pandemics, racism and the coronavirus. Because the stuff dealing with coronavirus is deep also. Okay. And we know that's definitely negatively impacting African Americans as well. And then the other thing, when they talk about hold on, let me try to pause this. Just a second, I'm trying to pause this clip here. All right. When they talk about the immigration, they deal with the impact of immigration on African nations, Caribbean nations, etc. So Biden will end the racist Muslim travel ban on Wednesday, which he did. The policy was one of Trump's first executive orders when he took office in 2017, which restricted travel and immigration to the U.S. from Syria, Iran, Iraq, the Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. He later added several West and East African countries with large Muslim populations, including Eritrea, Nigeria, Myanmar, Tanzania in 2020. Okay, undocumented migrants who live in America will be counted in the next census, undoing Trump's summer 2020 order to leave them out of the census. Now, that's stipulated by the U.S. Constitution. Once again, talking about the Constitution, that's stipulated by the U.S. Constitution. The count, the census is mandated by the Constitution. The first census was taken in 1790. The census is designed to count every living person in the U.S., regardless of immigration status. Is designed to count every living person in the U.S. regardless of immigration status, because those states that have those populations need resources. Okay, and if you undercount those immigrant populations, and it could be a situation where they're in the process of getting their legal status, or it could be a situation where their visa has expired and they're here illegally. Okay, for about 40% of undocumented immigrants are actually visa overstays. They were here legally and just overstayed their visas. Let me see something here. So the reason why Trump wanted to target the states that had higher populations of undocumented immigrants is to reduce the population that's actually counted in the census for those states, say like the state of Michigan or the state of California. If you reduce the population that's recorded by the census for those states, then it can very well reduce the amount of representation they have in the House of Representatives. The number of members in the House of Representatives that a state has is based upon population. It's based upon the population count in the U.S. Census. The census is created by the U.S. Constitution. If you reduce if the population of a state falls in the census count, and that state loses seats in the House of Representatives, then that means they lose electoral college votes associated with that state. What determines how many seats in the House? What determines how many electoral college votes a state has? Maine and Vermont have 3. Michigan has 16. Georgia has, I think it's 16 for Georgia. Texas has 38. California has 55. It's based upon population. If you have a drop in population in a state, they lose seats in the House of Representatives. They also lose electoral college votes. You take the number of seats in the House of Representatives a state has, you add to that the number of seats in the U.S. Senate. Every state has 2, based upon the U.S. Constitution. And then that tells you how many electoral college votes a state has. So Michigan has 16. 14, Michigan has 14 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and 2 seats in the U.S. Senate. If Michigan loses a population count, then we'll lose seats in the House of Representatives, which then means that we will have less electoral college votes, which then weakens Michigan in determining the next president, because Michigan has less electoral college votes. New York will have less electoral college votes. California will have less electoral college votes. So what Trump was trying to do by putting a immigration question on the Census Bureau, on the census form, and I knew what he was trying to do when he did it. What he's trying to do is target those states that have higher populations of immigrants, period, because a lot of households have people with different immigration statuses. Some could be here legally, some could be born here, others, they could overstay their visas and they're here illegally. Well, if you have people who are undocumented in your household, even if you are here legally and your status is legal, you may not want to turn in the census information. So nobody in your household gets counted. So that reduces population count in that city, in that state. That reduces federal funding. Federal funding is tied to the census count. This is why you saw those commercials playing all across the country in various communities when it was during the time to send in the census form, talking about how the census is tied to a distribution of funds in your communities. Okay, there's something close to $2 trillion across the country. Let me see something here. It was, 1.5 trillion. Yeah. Census will determine more than 1.5 trillion in federal spending, according to a new report from the George Washington Institute of Public Policy. Yeah, 1.5 trillion. And we can look at the importance of the census POP, CNN, CNN.com, October 15, 2020, inaccurate census count could affect $1.5 trillion in funding. Inaccurate census count could affect $1.5 trillion in funding. Well, all this ties back to the U.S. Constitution that we talked about at the beginning of the show. That most people don't understand what's in the Constitution. All this is connected. Read this article here from CNN.com. So I know people ask, and I hear people say, "Oh, the Constitution doesn't apply to black people. The Constitution doesn't apply to us." Really? You don't say that when you talk about exercising your Second Amendment right to bear arms. You don't say that when you talk about your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. You don't talk about that. That's the first 10 amendments are part of the Bill of Rights of 1791. You don't say that when you talk about your Fifth Amendment right against discrimination, or Fourth Amendment right against unlawful search and seizure. Make up your mind. Inaccurate census count could affect 1.5 trillion in federal funding. Okay, CNN.com, October 15th, 2020. Okay, so check that out. All right, we'll continue for a few more minutes here. Oh yeah, we gotta get the hell out of here. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Okay, this helps us to keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting 6 nights a week. Okay, because for 4 years we were just doing Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. But as of October 12, 2020, we're here 6 nights a week. Then also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So if you want to do $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, if you want to do more, that definitely helps. You can also set up for a recurring donation through PayPal if you want to do a donation once a month, what have you. That definitely helps support us. Keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay the bills, at least some of the bills, buy all this damn paper and ink. Okay, and keep broadcasting. All right. All of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the Distortion of the Legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Revolutionary, will not be televised on the television. That's a 2-hour presentation that I've done dealing with Dr. King and his distorted legacy. We have that in DVD and digital download format. Then also the Africans who were here before Columbus, the Africans who were here before Columbus. That is a 8 DVD bundle pack, includes some of my lectures and a double lecture I did with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. He's a good friend of mine. I've interviewed him a number of times. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. We did a double lecture together, and also includes a double lecture I did with Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, who's in the Hidden Colors documentaries. Okay, so check that out. Also, the Africans who were here before Columbus also includes one from Dr. Ivan Van Sertima dealing with They Came Before Columbus, and one from Dr. John Henry Clark also. All right. Let's see here. Let's go to this quickly here. Article from news1.com, reversing course, Joe Biden signs executive actions dissolving Trump's racist policies. Some of Trump's racist policies, not all of them. It's going to take some time. Okay, but they talked about immigration, especially how that impacts African nations and Caribbean nations. Then they talked about undocumented migrants who live in America will be counted in the next census, undoing Trump's summer 2020 order to leave them out of the census. Each census, they're counted. There has not been an immigration question on the census form in something like 70 years. All right. Now, the switch helps allocate monies for underrepresented communities, as well as contributing towards federal representation in Congress. That's the House of Representatives, which then ties into the Electoral College. All right. By putting that one question on the census form, Trump was trying to weaken more Democratic leaning states and set it up for Republicans to win future presidential elections in the Electoral College, even though they lose the popular vote. That's what the whole thing was about. Gang recognizes gang. When I first heard he was trying to get that question on the census form, I knew exactly what he was trying to do. Gang recognizes gang. You can't run that on me. Okay. Another executive action will reinforce the Biden administration's commitment to DACA. We talked about that yesterday by asking Congress to grant a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers, young people who migrated to America with their families, often escaping persecution and violence. Okay, we talked about that on yesterday's show. Biden will also extend protections for Liberians who are living in the United States under the status of, quote, deferred enforcement departure, end quote, until June 2020. Liberians from Liberia in Africa. The Biden administration plans to divest from building the border wall and will explore the arrest priorities for ICE, reversing a 2017 mandate regarding stricter immigration enforcement. See, this is the reason why African American news sources are so important, like responsible African American news sources, reliable ones, are so important, because a lot of this information you didn't hear it like in mainstream media. Now, on Roland Martin Unfiltered today, Dr. Greg Carr talked about, who's the chair of the Afro-American Studies Department at Howard University and a friend of mine. Dr. Greg Carr talked about this and how this impacts African and Caribbean migrants and immigrants coming from African and Caribbean nations. Okay, social justice. We talked about the 1776 Commission, dismantling that and how it's attacking the 1619 Project, and how the 1776 Commission sought to disenfranchise the role African Americans played in history, ignoring the racist foundation and ideas that foster chattel slavery in America. Okay, this is important here. Under one of the executive actions, the Office of Management and Budget, ran by Susan Rice, will examine federal budgets to ensure that money is being allocated to underserved communities. Another executive action plans to strengthen workplace discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. This allows federal protections for members of the LGBT community. We also talked about student loans, which is huge because African Americans tend to have more student loan debt than white Americans. African American women carry more student loan debt in general than most people, than white male or females. Biden will extend the pause on student loans until September 30th. Many hope that Biden will make good on his campaign promise to cancel $10,000 in student loan debt, but that specific initiative will require the backing of Congress, have to pass the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate before it can be placed into action. Okay, so this gives a good summary. You can go to whitehouse.gov and read the actual executive actions, the executive orders. You can read those at whitehouse.gov. All right. So this is from news1.com. Okay, so check that out. And there was also a good one from New York Times, Biden 17 executive orders and other directives in detail. And then the second day of executive orders, we'll deal with that on tomorrow's show. We're out of time here. I didn't have time to get to this. This is news1.com. I'll show you this one. You can read it. We just don't have time to get to this. We'll have to deal with this on tomorrow's show. I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, January 22nd. And then we'll talk about it on Friday's show. Biden signs executive orders on COVID vaccinations, pandemic response. Biden has set an ambitious goal of giving 100 million shots in 100 days, ramping up the pace from the 17 million shots the Trump administration oversaw on his second day in office. Okay, so we're dealing with Biden signed 10 executive orders to ramp up COVID-19 vaccinations, expand testing, and reopen schools as he outlined a detailed plan to tackle the pandemic. So he outlined a national plan to tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Let's see, part of the plan, new mission will increase the number of these conferences. Okay, so we'll talk about this on tomorrow's show and look at more executive orders. But you can check this out here. Okay, and let's see, this interview here from CBS News, we'll deal with this tomorrow also on time. This is about 7 minutes. We'll have time to do that tonight. That deals with the $16 trillion over 20 years. The interview is there. We'll talk about it some more. Hey, thanks, Antonia. We'll talk about it some more. Okay. This show is supposed to be an hour. I'm like, I got to do 2 shows on Friday. I have to do Roland show at 6 p.m. and be back here at 11 p.m. So I don't I don't want this to be another 2-hour show or 3-hour show tonight. I have to be up early. Lastly, let's deal with this clip here. Birthday shout outs we'll deal with on Friday. We have Jam Master Jay. J-A-Y are the letters of his name, cutting and scratching under the aspects of his game. So check out the master as he cuts these jams and look at us with the mics in our hand. Then take a count 1, 2, 3. Jam Master J, Run DMC. January 21st, 1965. Jason William Mizzle, better known by his stage name Jam Master J, was born January 21st, 1965. He's the DJ for Run DMC. Okay. During Run DMC's, during the 1980s, Run DMC became one of the biggest hip hop groups and credited with breaking hip hop into mainstream music. I remember when the music came out, when that movie came out, Tougher Than Leather. I remember Run DMC in Crush Groove and Body Moving. Sheila E was in Crush Groove too. She was fine as hell. All right. And tragically, he was killed October 30th, 2002. Speaking of fine as hell, y'all remember? Okay, so we'll do the birthday shout outs properly tomorrow night, but if we have time, and then Sunday, because we're on 2 hours on Sunday. We're really scheduled for 2 hours on Sunday. Okay, we just scheduled for Monday through Friday is 1 hour. But birthday, okay, y'all remember Vanity 6? Okay, so Susan Moonsie from Vanity 6 turns 57 years old today. All right, so we got to do this properly. We got to show it to you, okay? And I remember Vanity 6 when they came out, like 1981. They had the lingerie and everything. I was in middle school, so we posted about this as well. So happy birthday to Susan of the legendary group Vanity 6. And let's pull this up here. You remember Vanity 6 with the lingerie and everything. This is before the Mary Jane girls were wearing the lingerie. Vanity 6 had the lingerie. And let's blow this up right here. So she turns 57 today. I had the album Vanity 6 Nasty Girl. I don't know where that album is now. I don't know what happened to it. But I had the album 33 1/3 back in the day. So Susan Moonsie, singer and musician. Not sure what instrument she played, but I didn't know she played. I didn't know she played instruments, but I was, back then I was like, damn. But anyway, singer and musician. She is best known as a member of Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6. I remember Purple Rain, Sex Shooter, Shooting Love in Your Direction, Apollonia 6. Now, Susan Moonsie became a member of Vanity 6 in 1982 and was given a quote-unquote teenage Lolita image by Prince for shock value. Susan claimed she was only 16 years old at the time, although she was 18 years old when the group was formed. Now, Susan and fellow Vanity 6 member Brenda Bennett later joined Patricia Apollonia Cotero after Vanity's departure from Prince as Apollonia 6 in the 1984 movie Purple Rain. Okay. So I got to look and see what Susan's doing now. All right, but here's the picture. So I remember back in the day. And then, they had Nasty Girl, which was a classic. He's So Shy. Then didn't they have a song, Sorry Wrong Number or something like that? Something, but I had to go research Vanity 6 again. Okay, but happy birthday to Susan. Then also we have Jam Master Jay. J-A-Y are the letters of his name. Cutting and scratching are the aspects of his game. Jam Master Jay was just so cool. Run DMC was so cool back in the day with the leather jackets, everything, the hats. I mean, just the Adidas. Okay, my Adidas. Walk through concert doors, roam all over Coliseum floors, and those shoestrings in them. I did not win them. My pockets get fat, others get thinner. Jam Master Jay, January 1st, 1865. Happy birthday to Jam Master Jay also. All right. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Lastly, let's go to so on our Tuesday show and Wednesday show, I shared excerpts of an interview that Dr. King did on the Mike Douglas show, November 2nd, 1967. Okay. So I think Mike Douglas this may have even been before Phil Donahue was on the air. I'm not sure if Phil Donahue was on the air in the 60s, but Mike Douglas was a popular TV talk show host at the time. All right. And Dr. King, so this is a few months before Dr. King was assassinated, okay? And Dr. King is talking about his opposition to the Vietnam War. All right, this is the third installment, third excerpt of that interview. Let's go to this clip.
Dr. King, if I may, I found this in this morning's paper. Negroes hail results of Dr. King's policy. Berkeley, California, more than 4 out of 5 American Negroes believe the nonviolence of Dr. Martin Luther King has done the most to help their race, a study reveals. But about half of the same Negroes interviewed for a University of California study believe riots have done some good. Findings, which include interviews with 1,119 Negroes, were released in a book titled Protest and Prejudice. Author Gary T. Marks, now assistant sociology professor at Harvard University, reports the majority of Negroes seem to direct their hatred and anger toward the system of evil and those who support it, not indiscriminately against all whites. Can you comment on that article?
Yes, I'm very interested in hearing that. I hadn't read the article and I hadn't read the book. In fact, I wasn't aware of it. But I think it is true that the vast majority of Negroes feel that the best way to resolve the problem is to work through peaceful, nonviolent means and militant nonviolence, but not through violence. Now, on the question of whether riots have helped, I've taken the position that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating, and therefore I have to take a stand against it because of my deep commitment to nonviolence. On the other hand, I do think a riot is the language of the unheard. And America has failed to hear, for instance, that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last 10 or 15 years. I think it has also failed to hear that large segments of white society are more committed to tranquility and the status quo than to justice and humanity and equality. And in that sense, I think the riots have called attention to something. Not that they have brought about social transformation, but they've called attention to a very serious problem in our society. But I couldn't say that they have been helpful in the sense of really bringing about structural change. I haven't seen any basic change that has come through riots. The changes that we have made and the changes that we've seen over the last 10 or 12 years have come through powerful watershed nonviolent movements.
Well, have the militant leaders taken over the civil rights movement, in your opinion?
Well, there again, I think a poll like this reveals that most Negroes are still following the leadership of those who feel that the problem must be worked out through nonviolence. After all, riots have been engaged in by a very small number of Negroes, when you think of the fact that there are some 22 million Negroes in the United States. Now, when you use the word militant, I think it is possible to be militant and yet nonviolent. I think I'm militant. Militancy means persistent, to be demanding, to be insistent. And I think it's possible to be militantly nonviolent. And these, I think, are going to be the leaders who will lead us through this very tense period of transition.
Doctor, what do you think of the approach of this Soapy Carmichael and the H. Rap Brown?
Well, naturally, there are philosophical disagreements I have with both Mr. Carmichael and Mr. Brown. But I always have to say...
Have you discussed these disagreements with them?
Oh, very definitely. I know them very well.
Do they agree with you?
Together in the movement a good deal, and I'm sure they would disagree with me on a number of things.
In other words, they're not too friendly with you sometimes.
No, that's quite right. But in answering the question about them, I always go beyond them because I think they are products of the problem rather than causes of the problem. And I always have to think of the fact that it's very easy to take our visions from the causal basis, from the root of the problem, and see the consequence out here and begin to major on that. Neither Reb Brown nor Stokely Carmichael created slavery. They did not create slums. They did not create unemployment or underemployment. They did not create segregated or qualityless schools. And they didn't start a war in Vietnam. These things were started by other forces in our society. It was Victor Hugo who said once, where there is darkness, crimes will be committed. The guilty one is not merely he who commits a crime, but he who caused the darkness. And I think we have to admit that these men didn't cause the darkness. They are the products of the darkness. How about their following? Do they have a growing or important following among American Negroes? Well, I would say among the young population, there are those who are listening more to Mr. Carmichael and Mr. Brown. I wouldn't say that they have a large following. I still think it's a minority. But if conditions do not change, if they're not made better, and if programs do not emerge that really go all out to get rid of the deprivation surrounding the life of the Negro, then they will probably have a greater appeal. What will this do to the power of Dr. Martin Luther King at that point? Well, I never like to discuss Martin Luther King's influence for fear that that is suggestive of your modesty. I'm just trying to do a job, and I think it's a job that has to be done. And I'm not trying to do it merely for myself, or merely for my children, or merely for the Negro, but for America, because I think it's true that if this problem isn't solved, the soul of our nation will be lost. And the only way to redeem the soul of America is to remove or to eradicate racism in all of its dimensions. Dr. King, in the past you've been accused of having communist sympathies, and since your stand has to help the communist cause, aren't you concerned that these allegations will be revived? Well, they are always revived. I hate that McCarthy-era tend to live with us, but I don't really worry about this. I know my own views. Are you a communist? Too well. Are you a communist? Absolutely not. I have never been. I am not now, and I never will be in terms of the philosophy of communism. I happen to be a Baptist preacher, and I don't think you find too many Baptist preachers who would be communists. I think communism is based on a metaphysical materialism and a kind of ethical relativism and a crippling totalitarianism and a denial of certain human freedoms that I consider basic, First Amendment freedoms that I consider so basic. But I could never be a communist. I prefer the communist way of life. But I do feel that we've got to recognize the fact that communism is in the world, and we're going to either have to have peaceful coexistence or violent co-annihilation. Dr. King, we have certainly appreciated your stopping by today. We have enjoyed this visit very much. Thank you so much. Enjoy meeting you.
Okay, so that was from November 2nd. 1967, the Mike Douglas show. Dr. King. That was part 3 of the interview. All right, and that's on YouTube. You can check that out. Go back and watch all 3 segments. Very, very insightful. Dr. King was assassinated about 5 months after that interview. Okay, the link I was looking for progress of the African American community under the Obama administration, that is okay, I finally found it, and let's see here. Just a second here. Okay, so that's it. Let's see, return on screen share. Here we go. Now, this is at whitehouse.gov, but it's archived. All right. Now, I talked about this in 2016, talked about it in 2015. I may have talked about it in 2014 because it was up in 2014. This goes through and breaks down category by category how the policies from the Obama administration positively impacted African Americans, from the labor market, income and poverty, to criminal justice, to prison population, poverty, health, because the Affordable Health Care Act, 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care got health care. This extended the life expectancy of African Americans to the highest point in history. In 2014, life expectancy at birth was 72.5 years for African American males, 78.4 for African American females, the highest point in the historical series of both genders, because more African Americans could get preventive health care. Also, the number one reason why people file for bankruptcy is because of medical bills. So if you can get preventive health care, this reduces bankruptcies, which then positively impacts economics for African Americans also. They do education, and the highest graduation rate for African American high school students in history, the 2013-2014 academic year. You can go through, I don't have time to get through all this. HBCUs, things like that. Funding for HBCUs. They talk about I think they talk about the graduation rates as well. Talk about Pell Grant funding also. I think they talk about, I think at some point they talk about graduation as well. Criminal justice also. The incarceration rates for African American men and women fell during each year of the Obama administration, which is true. You can go to bjs.gov, Bureau of Justice Statistics. Also, the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015. And then the percentage of African Americans in prison dropped from 40% to 34% under the Obama years as well. There was a record number of investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments also under the Obama administration. That almost stopped under the Trump administration because Trump took a hands-off approach to policing. They talk about My Brother's Keeper, things like that. They go through different categories: equity for women and girls of color, all this small business, small businesses, etc. Civil Rights Division, judicial appointees. President Obama has made 62 lifetime appointments of African Americans to serve on the federal bench. This includes 9 African American circuit court judges. It also includes the appointment of 53 African American district court judges, including 26 African American women. All this stuff nobody talks about. Now, why they don't talk about it, I really don't know, unless they don't know it. But read the rest of this, okay? Check this out. This is at so this is archived at obamawhitehouse.gov. Originally, it was at whitehouse.gov. Then, when he left the White House, it was archived. So it was archived at obamawhitehouse.gov. But check this out. We'll post the link here. Oh, and you can just Google this, but we'll post the link here also. And then in Biden's 22-page agenda to empower the African American community, which we talked about here on this show numerous times, and we went through and showed it to you and broke it down and things like this. And the executive orders, a lot of these executive orders that he's implementing, is following through on promises that he made during the campaign, and promise he made to different segments of the population also. Okay, because he didn't just make promises to African Americans. Okay, for some reason people just think he just made promises to us and didn't make promises to other segments of the population, which is stupid. You know, but whatever. So he's following through on those promises. But when you go through and read it, and notice I keep saying read. When you go through and read it, in some of the sections, there's a link to the progress of the African American community under the Obama administration, because the Biden plan, a portion of it was focused on reversing the policies that Trump put in place that have been detrimental to different segments of the American population, especially African Americans. Okay, so what you could do, read this article here. This deals with the article from Black Press USA. Black Press USA is an African American news wire, Black Press USA. So we post articles from Black Press USA also. This article came out May 4th, 2020, because that's when Biden's agenda came out, May 4th, 2020. And it has the link to Biden's agenda in there. They've made some updates to the website because it transitioned from the campaign, and now you have the administration. But you can go here. There's still ways you can pull up the original agenda because I printed it up, but we have it here, and the original agenda was expanded also. It's expanded. I think they expanded to like maybe 48 pages, something like that. But we'll do this here. We'll go through and then give you the actual link. Okay, yeah, joebiden.com/Black America, joebiden.com/Black America. And that's where that agenda is. So when you go through and look at the executive orders and other executive orders that are coming out, they're following through on promises that he made in that agenda, promises he made on the campaign trail. All right, so we'll post that link there. All right, hey, we got to get out of here. So if you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. African American business owners, email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Current promotion, we have going for a few more days. We have a few more slots open. Buy 1 month, get 1 month free, and then we re-air you. We create a video commercial for you, or you can send us one. Non-copywritten music. Okay, you can't have Cardi B playing. So, okay, non-copywritten music, but it re-airs. We re-air these shows throughout the day on our social media platforms. Okay, so in 30 days, you'll get 200 commercials airing. All right, email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, or you can also email us at the AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, because sometimes when we respond, it goes to voicemail. All right. All right. Look, we have to get out of here. Remember, right now is correct. Wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night. And I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered. He broadcasts live 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, on his Facebook page, Roland Martin, and his YouTube channel, Roland Martin, also. And we share the broadcast here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Okay. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.